Ever since he first debuted at AEW Double or Nothing 2019, there's been no one who represents what AEW is all about more than Jon Moxley. He has held the AEW championship 4 times and has always been the guy that the company goes to in their lowest moments. Moxley is not only the ace of All Elite Wrestling, but he's also the savior it needs right now. And as it seems like we are in the midst of one of the biggest storylines, not only in AEW history, but professional wrestling history, it looks like Jon Moxley is going to get a chance to save AEW one more time. And this truly might be the biggest paradigm shift that he has done in his entire career. Before we get into that, I'm Omar Q for Wrestle Vibes, and this is Jon Moxley, the savior of AEW. At the time of this recording, AEW is in the middle of one of the biggest stories they've ever told. The new-look Blackpool Combat Club with Claudio Castagnoli, Pac, Wheeler Yuta, Marina Shafir, led by Jon Moxley, the AEW World Champion, have just taken out Bryan Danielson, leaving the entire locker room in shock and awe at their actions, and leaving the viewers at home wondering why Moxley would go to these lengths. And in order to answer that question, we have to look back at everything that has led up to this moment and what Jon Moxley specifically has meant to AEW since he first debuted in the company at Double or Nothing 2019. And if we go back and look at his debut, Moxley at the time represented exactly what AEW was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a place where pro wrestlers could go to actually wrestle. It was supposed to be a place where professional wrestling characters were allowed to be as three-dimensional as they could be and reach their full potential. And it was supposed to cater to talent specifically like Jon Moxley, who didn't need writers to tell them what to do, who didn't need creative to always guide every single movement that they made in the ring, but for people who understood exactly what their characters need to be given the tools in order to make those characters flourish. And that was one of the main reasons why Jon Moxley ended up coming to AEW from WWE. And as we would find out on an edition of the Talk is Jericho podcast that Moxley did shortly after debuting for the company, it became very obvious that one of the biggest gripes that he had with WWE was the lack of satisfaction in the product that he was putting out. Because especially at the time, WWE was not a show and a program or a company where one could be exactly who they wanted to be on TV and let their creative juices flow. It was a product that was designed to cater to one man. That man being Vince McMahon. And as we have seen the company change very much so in the past couple of years, the case was in 2019, in the years previous, WWE was not a place where talent could tell stories that creatively satisfied themselves. And in many ways, as was in the case with Jon Moxley, these storylines and characters that they were portraying were embarrassing to the talent themselves.
You know, sometimes, you know, we like to sit around the house and put on like concerts and just hang out and talk and watch concerts. And I like to do that sometimes, like if I'm doing like something like that, like I just be riding a bike, I put my phone up and put on like concerts, performances. Mm-hmm. I love watching performances of anybody who's awesome, any guy or girl who's awesome at what they do. Mm-hmm. You know, whether that's Freddie Mercury at Live Aid or Cody gave me a good one. The Killers from Royal Albert Hall, you know, Woodstock 99, whatever it is you're into, you know. And I remember watching like some concert and just watching just people just in their element, just playing their music the way they want to play it and just hitting on all cylinders and just connecting with the crowd on all cylinders and like maybe change a little lyric up, maybe say it in a little different way, just in the zone. You know, you're a freaking rock star, right? Yeah. And I remember thinking, like, getting a little sad because I was like, I haven't felt that way in a long time. you know? So I think that was where the seed was planted, you know, because I'm just shackled in WWE. And I really felt like I was like fighting for my life. And I think that's why the people connected with me there. And then when they were like, whoa, we got over. And then I started selling a bunch of merchandise. And then they were like, now they have to get their hands on it and try to turn you into what they think you should be or whatever. And like, for whatever reason it is, me and Vince, like my particular type of charisma, Vince just can't just let me be. He's got to like put a hat on me or put me in a goofy vehicle or something. You know, whatever reason, we're like Mentos and Diet Coke, man. Me and Vince together just create this explosion of goofy nonsense that I detest.
And that is why we saw such a fervor around AEW when it first started, because it allowed people to do what they weren't able to do on the biggest stage that was possible. And that's why when he came in many ways, Jon Moxley represented the heart and soul of AEW. He was not only the first big guy to jump ship from WWE, but he was also someone who came to AEW and immediately it became clear that he fit exactly what this company was going to be. And in many ways, he fit AEW much better than he did WWE. And that is why he has always been carrying the mantle. In 2020, when Jon Moxley became the AEW World Champion and becoming the first babyface to do so, he was there because of that connection he had to the identity of AEW. And as he would go on to carry the company through some of the darkest months that any of us have ever seen during the COVID-19 pandemic, it also became clear that Mox was not only there to hold the AEW championship to elevate him, but at a certain point, he was established and he was helping elevate the rest of AEW. And that is why when he lost to Kenny Omega at Winter is Coming 2020, we saw Mox take a bit of a back seat. He was always among the main eventers, but he was never back to that main event level until about 2 years afterwards in 2022, when he would go on to become the interim AEW World Champion. After then defeating CM Punk for that interim tag, he became a 2-time champion and then would even go on to win it a 3rd time after CM Punk had his title vacated in the fallout of Brawlout 2022. And it is no mistake that Moxley was the guy to be picked to be that AEW World Champion at that time, because Mox was always the guy that AEW has relied on in its worst moments. As I mentioned before, the pandemic, at a time where AEW very easily could have lost interest from the fans and been cast aside as a television product and as a company, Moxley was able to help carry that company through some very, very catastrophic times. And then, at one of the lowest points that AEW's ever had, Moxley, once again in 2022, after the company had been hit with a lot of bad PR, bad news, and many people were even turned off by the company, he took that mantle, took that flag, took that title, and went on to elevate it even more. And that has been the story of AEW almost as much as it has been the story of Jon Moxley over the past couple of years. And that has kind of led us to this point, because Moxley now is clearly motivated by something. And I think the thing that's motivating him more than anything else at this point is the fact that that identity that AEW had. After 2022, we also saw AEW change a bit and the identity of the company alter into something that more closely resembled sports entertainment, something that Moxley was actually running away from, both in storyline and in real life. And as we saw, the more sports entertainment stories like the Adam Cole MJF saga, and also the backstage politics of AEW and backstage shenanigans within AEW heighten, I think we saw the identity of the company change. Instead of being the hot place that everyone needed to be and the product that everyone needed to watch, ratings were slipping. Instead of being the place where everyone was happy and everyone was working as a team, there was so much backstage talk about AEW that sometimes it even overlooked what was happening on TV. And at the time where AEW had, you could argue, their next young world champion, his storyline with the belt fizzled out in a way that no one saw coming. And I think to Jon Moxley and the Jon Moxley character, he witnessed this. He witnessed the company that he had loved and grown to love and had come to actively. He witnessed it change into exactly what he despised. And at the same time, he noticed that in many ways the company and its stars had stagnated. We had been talking for 5 years now about the potential for Darby Allin to become a world champion. We've been talking for nearly 5 years of people like Orange Cassidy or Private Party or others to step up into a more prominent role in the company and become true main eventers. In many ways, they are very similar, if not slightly elevated versions of what they were in 2019. And to Jon Moxley, that isn't good enough. And to Jon Moxley, that is not what he came here to do. He came here to change the landscape of pro wrestling, and instead, AEW has stagnated, AEW has regressed, and the company and product that he fell in love with has turned rotten before his very eyes. And that is why he feels in this moment, in this storyline, that there is no one who can save AEW other than himself. And he has put together a team of people in the new Blackpool Combat Club that all have the same vision: to either save AEW by bringing out its best or destroy it from the inside. And that is what I think is going on here. Jon Moxley is looking at stars like Darby Allin. He's looking at stars like Orange Cassidy and others. And he is saying, if me sacrificing Bryan Danielson, brutalizing, victimizing, and abusing him in the way that he did at WrestleDream 2024 doesn't bring out your best, and you're not able to beat me and prove to me that I am wrong, that I, Jon Moxley, am not the only one who can carry this mantle, that I, Jon Moxley, am not the only one who has what it takes to carry this company and save it by bringing it back to what it was supposed to be, then it doesn't deserve to exist in the first place. And that is what is going on here. And that is why I think this storyline, not only from an interest standpoint, is one of the biggest stories that AEW has told, but as far as what it means to the company, this story has the potential to elevate guys like Darby Allin specifically into something big. And it's almost like they are trying to fix the problems of the past 5 years, the stagnation of the past 5 years that many people have in real life complained about the company, but doing it in storyline. And in that way, they're trying to ignite something, not only online, but also within their stars. They're trying to make sure that these people, some of AEW's biggest talent, are positioned and are brought up to a main event level, and a level that many people believed they were capable of, but just never reached. And that's why I truly believe right now, Jon Moxley and AEW are telling one of the best stories, one of the more visceral stories that we've ever seen in pro wrestling. And also, Jon Moxley here isn't trying to kill AEW. He is doing everything he can to save it before it's too late. As far as whether or not that will happen, we will see. But I want to hear from you in the comments section. Let me know what you think.